It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that you think before. He meddled in things. He meddled in myths.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Mulder.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, I'm Alex Daikaiju.
I'm Eli Watson.
I'm Tobias Wayland.
I'm Adam Benedict.
And we are
Cryptid
Campfire. We're working on it.
Welcome, everyone, to a special episode of Cryptid Campfire. Me and Alex are joined today by Tobias Wayland of the Singular Fortean Society and Adam Benedict of the Pine Barrens Institute. How are you guys doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. Thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for asking.
I figured it would be fun if we just kind of freeform talk. I have a couple of questions I think I'm going to ask you guys, but sprinkled throughout, just to kind of give us some topics to discuss.
Yeah, I figure, for the listeners out there, in case you're unaware, there's a quarantine going on right now. So we've dropped any semblance of society. We've dropped the normal routine, and we're doing freeform jazz discussion style this episode. So it's going to be fun. I have an alcoholic drink with me, and let's get in for some fun discussions.
I finished mine like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, nice.
In the process of making another, eh?
I don't even know. You could try.
The first thing I want to know, and we just talked about it before recording, Tobias Wayland, you referred to Adam Benedict as an elderly Neanderthal villager?
No.
Complete butchering.
Right. No, it just so happens that Adam bears a strong resemblance to a Neanderthal village elder. I mean, I'll let him explain that. It's just it's the best way. If somebody asks you, hey, so that Adam Benedict guy, what's his deal? You can just tell him, just picture like a Neanderthal village elder, and you've got it.
Thank you. It makes me feel great.
Right.
But what it is 3 years ago, and it this is what I love about Facebook memories. Sometimes it brings up the gold stuff, the stuff you want to forget, but it's like, no, you're not ready to forget that yet. But back in 2017, I was reading an article, and it was talking about a 2013 archaeological study. And this study, they were looking into the burial of a Neanderthal man, and through work on the skeleton, they noticed that it belonged to a severely disabled elderly male. And they theorized that he was more than likely a respected village elder because of how his grave was created. And through testing on the bones, they determined that the individual was between 30 to 40 years old at the time of death. And at that point, when I read that, I was officially had become the age of a Neanderthal village elder. And 3 years later, I am now almost to the midlife crisis of a Neanderthal village elder. So I'm currently looking into what I want my grave to look like and be filled with when my village says its goodbyes.
I mean, that's pretty crazy because, I mean, just imagine, where you are right now, and just imagine people coming up to you and treating you like you've lived, a lifetime, and you know nothing but wisdom, and their lives depend on what you offer as advice right now.
I would not. Okay, me personally, if I came up to myself and I asked for advice, any advice that I gave, I would just completely disregard it and go ask someone who I assume is more adult than I am. To imagine that I have that kind of power over an entire village is terrifying.
It's Lord of the Flies 2, Caveman Edition.
Oh God.
Lord of the Flies, man.
They introduced
crazy
time
book.
travel into the sequel.
I feel like I take the exact opposite tack from Adam on this, though. Like, I have a lot of important opinions. I mean, well, important to me, you know what I mean? Like, I can sit here and explain to like a bunch of kids in their early 20s why they need to be playing no version of D&D created after 1991, and you know, I could spend a good couple hours let's just laying that wisdom on them. But I'm just afraid that, you know, I'm a Neanderthal village elder without a village. Like, just nobody wants to hear it from me.
You want to start an old man Neanderthal village?
Yes. It's going to be all about how no movie should ever be longer than 90 minutes and why my preferred edition of Dungeons and Dragons is the objectively best one.
I just have this vision of people walking up to the village, hearing that rant from like on the wind coming over a hill, and they're like, nah, let's just keep going.
Yep.
It's just like a caveman congress.
Oh.
Whoa.
To discuss.
Is that our new podcast, Caveman Congress?
Yeah, we talk about the geopolitical constructs and strifes of the cavemans in their quest to join Pangea.
This just got real deep.
Season 2 is all about the trials and tribulations of being on the ice bridge while the mammoths and the saber-tooths are using it at the same time.
And the episode ends with a crack sound effect, and it's like a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Halfway through it, just a swarm of plesiosaurs break through the only way. And they've been separated half. You know, the Cro-Magnons on one side, the Neanderthals on the other, and they're just like, well, we'll meet up again for further adventures, but it might not go well next time.
The Sci-Fi Channel has entered the chat and has stolen your idea.
Right? Caveman Congress. One man, one caveman, the world at fate. Sci-Fi is at 8 p.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, but not Tuesdays.
Oh, I only watch television on Tuesdays.
That's reserved for nothing but the first 2 episodes of Firefly on repeat for 8 hours.
Oh, goodness.
No, it should probably be like 2 episodes, basically not connected by anything, that took place mid-season, because that's what I usually end up seeing. I think that's on purpose.
You're like, I'm hooked, but also I don't have the capacity to really care enough to want another sequel to this. I'm sorry, Joss Whedon.
I guess before we get too far into the rabbit hole, I think we're a little too far gone.
Let's take a step back.
But I just thought of this right now. Adam was telling us last week when he was on the show. Was it really last week? Wow, time moves.
14th. So yeah, last week I believe.
Oh, weird.
Time is an illusion.
So Adam was telling us that Tobias, that he just kind of stone cold emailed you, and that's how you two met. I just want to hear your side of the story.
I thought it was through Emily.
It was.
Oh, it was through Emily.
Yeah.
Forgive me, my memories are a jumble right now.
It's totally fine. If we can get past my terrible Firefly joke that fell flat, we can get past anything. So my recollection of that was, basically, you know, like I saw, actually Emily had mentioned to me that somebody had you know, reached out to her from another organization in Wisconsin that was also into weird stuff. And so, I mean, like my first introduction to Adam really was just like, all right, like who's this guy messaging Emily like on Facebook or whatever. And then we started talking through probably the sort of informal network that we had started forming at that time, that it still does include people from all over the country, who are just, similarly into weird stuff. And I don't know, I guess we've just been friends ever since.
I remember when I sent the message and Emily and I were talking, she was talking about you. She's like, oh yeah, you're going to want to talk to Tobias because he's the one, he does the writing and the researching and stuff like that. But I don't remember what you had going on at the time. So it's kind of like a few days or a little bit of time had passed where it's just like everything went silent. And it was that fear, like, oh no, what if he does think I'm just a weirdo? It's just like, hey, I'm a stranger messaging you on the internet. It's like,
right.
Forever left on scene.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if it was 2017, boy, I don't know. It was probably Lake Michigan Mothman something that was keeping me busy.
Well, I actually have a question about this. The Lake Michigan Mothman research you did.
Sure.
So I just recently read Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah.
And John Keel mentions he was receiving strange phone calls. And I was wondering if you had received any strange phone calls?
Strange phone calls? No, but the caveat to that is I never answer my phone. So if I had received strange phone calls, I would not know.
Wait for him to leave a message, hopefully.
Yeah, right. And then I just delete it without listening to it. I mean, really, like I wouldn't even have any way of knowing, because I'm not even kidding. Like I never even have the sound on my phone or anything unless like I'm expecting a pizza or something. So there were some fairly cryptic communications that we had received, but they were mostly through email. And a lot of those could have been somebody's like creative writing project. Most of the weird, really most of the high strangeness sort of on my end of that investigation was more in the realm of synchronicity and just maybe tangential at best sort of phenomena that I was experiencing myself, which was sort of Keelian in its own way, in that, a lot of the stuff that sort of he was experiencing during the Mothman investigation back in Point Pleasant really didn't seem to have a whole lot to do with a flying humanoid.
Yeah, I would agree with that. No, yeah, I read Mothman Prophecies in like 2 days. I was in a different country at the time. And, I had brought it thinking it was the only book I brought with me, thinking that there would be like TV and internet. And then I got there and there was no TV and no internet. And I only had that one book. And I was there for 8 days. So I had nothing to do for the 6 leftover days I was there.
Did you like the part in the book where Richard Gere asks Mothman what's in his hat, in his hand, not in his hat, and he tells him it's chapstick?
What? I don't understand.
It's in the movie The Mothman Prophecies. That's what like they based the trailer off of. There's a part where I'm assuming, if I remember the movie correctly, Richard Gere started getting phone calls from Indrid Cold, and he was telling him that he's from the future, or he can see the future, something along those lines. And Richard Gere puts him to the test. Now he's on the phone with what appears to be like some interdimensional humanoid who says he knows the future, whatever. So the way he tests him is he grabs some chapstick and he holds it in a fist in his hand on the telephone. And he's like, he says something like, if you know everything, then what's in my hand?
Nice.
And then there's just like really odd voice that someone tried to do to make chapstick to sound spooky. You just hear him go, chapstick. And like Richard Gere opens his hand and it's just like this blast of like dramatic sounds, and it's like the Mothman Prophecies.
I was gonna say I think we watched it like a year ago. Eli, do you remember anything about that movie?
Yes, in fact, I remember the discussion you and I had, Alex, about who should have directed that movie and who
Yes.
should have starred in it.
Yeah.
Like Richard,
It was such a weird movie. Like thinking back on it now, it's kind of like it feels like one of those fever dream like recollections where you're like, did I really see that?
Like Return to Oz, like that kind.
Yeah.
For real.
Like
Yeah,
Candle Cove.
Right. Like everybody sort of like in the paranormal field that I ever talked to, they're always like talking about how much they love that movie. And I don't know why, because like I've seen it. And, you know, I grew up reading John Keel, and then I got, you know, all excited to watch that movie when it came out, and I watched it. And, you know, I'm a pretty nerdy guy just in general, so I tend to be something of a purist when it comes to like, you know, celluloid adaptations of my favorite books and stuff. And it just, I mean, it got like every detail I could think of wrong. Like, didn't Mothman kill Richard Gere's wife or something? And you're just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
All of it was just,
Out
They
of
were
nowhere.
driving down the road.
yeah,
I
sorry,
believe
spoiler.
it starts out there. Who hasn't seen it back in what, from 2001?
Right. You had your chance. Yeah.
I believe they were driving down the road or whatever, and all of
Right.
a sudden she sees Mothman fly directly into and through their car, and then she slams her head on the windshield and she dies. So
Right.
she's just out of it.
And so,
No.
And then-
She crashes, hits her head. They're in the hospital, and they're like, "Hey, so we did she's in a coma, I think."
right.
But they did a brain scan, a CT on her, and it has like there's like a tumor in her head or something that looks like a moth.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's even worse than
Something
I
crazy
remembered.
like that.
They do all these or what they're trying to do subliminally with all these moth images, but they're just right in your face. You're like, that's a moth.
They're
That's a
just
moth
like
in
out
her
of nowhere
brain.
with no build up.
It's
Yeah.
such a weird. And that's the classic, the number one example of what Hollywood does to all stories, you know, coming out of this field. They just Hollywoodize it so much that it has nothing to do with the original. It's almost like what Hollywood did with World War Z. The book and the movie are nothing.
Oh, no. I
Nothing
forgot
the
that
same.
that even existed. Oh, thanks a
I'm
lot.
sorry.
Well, you know what's funny is because you look at a movie like Mothman Prophecies. You know, you're talking 2001. This movie comes out. Richard Gere's in it. It's got kind of a scary red poster on it, so you're not sure what to expect, and you go into it and you're confused. But you know, I think we got the knockoff version of what the movie should have been. Me and Eli kind of talk about this. Is imagine Mothman Prophecies the way it is directed, but you know, with slight differences. Instead of Richard Gere, imagine one David Duchovny.
I'm on board now. Keep going.
Hot off the successes of X-Files.
X-Files.
And the director you get to do the movie that this, you know, you imagine Mothman Prophecies, you get David Lynch to direct it.
Okay, I could see something working on that.
And you get
But
the
then
strange Twin Peaks aspect into it that they're trying to go for with Indrid Cold coming out of nowhere, changing reality while it's still somewhat normal, but you get an uneasy feeling about it.
Right. And,
It could work.
but
It could work.
you can't have, you know, because one of the things about that movie that was also just really disappointing is you had like this sort of like dour, serious investigator in Richard Gere, where, you know, with John Keel, you need like John Keel was witty and eclectic, you know, like hell, they could have just got Keel to do the movie and he would have been more entertaining.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
Ooh, that would have been good.
Right. But
I
like
know,
that's what you need. And like Duchovny can, like he can bring that. So yeah, I think I would be on board with that adaptation.
And if you look at the poster, they kind of did the lighting difference so that Richard Gere looks like David Duchovny.
it's true though.
Now, what if Indrid Cold was played by Val Kilmer?
No. You know who Indrid Cold would be?
Val Kilmer.
No, you get your cameo from David Lynch, and so you have David Duchovny on the phone. He's just like, "What is in my hand? If you know everything, a chapstick." Coop, chapstick. I can see the future. Hang up, and you're just like, oh my god! And then the little tiny dancing guy starts coming into the room.
Right. I'd watch it.
Oh man, I was
really
going to say something, but it doesn't even compare to what you just said, so I'm just going to scrap it.
For real, like the true Fortean mystery there, though, and I still can't wrap my mind around this, is why so many people, like professionals in this industry, say that they really, really like it. And I can't tell you how many times I've been interviewed by somebody who like references that movie as like their main reference source of Mothman phenomena. And
it is bizarre how many people really hold that like in their top 5.
Right.
And it always makes me wonder if it's like the whole
it's a Fortean mystery.
Yeah. Was there a director's cut that came out that no one saw, or did they send the wrong print to the theater for like a week and everyone saw it during that time?
I know. Because Alex, when we were watching it, Alex pointed out in one scene, Richard Gere visits this researcher in Chicago, I think it is, or somewhere, and they're talking to each other. Supposedly, there's this one light at this dining table, but the lighting between the two shots doesn't even match.
Yeah.
And I'm like the people who made this movie, I don't think cared. You know,
it sounds like a studio probably had the rights to it, and they were forced to either make a movie or lose the rights.
Right.
So they made a movie in hopes of making a movie a few years later, but then when they saw how everyone reacted to it, they're like, "Yeah, it's better. It's better we just don't even make another one."
I think I kind of looked into the movie, and this is off the top of my head. I don't remember much other than what I think we did like a year ago when we covered it. But I think the director of the movie was mostly known for like music videos at the time.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so his Internet Movie Database is just full of like really stylized. I think I want to say he did like some Aerosmith kind of music videos. So the lighting's kind of weird, and that kind of 90s feel that it sticks out like a sore thumb in the early 2000s when it became.
It does have that style.
So I think it was probably one of those things that are like, oh man, we can't put 2000 on anything anymore because 2000 just happened. That's not selling anymore. We still got these music directors everywhere. Let's get some cool style in here. Give them Mothman Prophecies. It's going to be the next kind of cool movie that takes off. And then everyone was like, what is this? They're like, why is everything? It's 20 years before Mandy. We don't appreciate all red lighting yet. It's too ahead of its time. We weren't quite ready for it. It's like Marty McFly.
We weren't ready for the chapstick.
It might have been a little too extreme, but your kids are gonna love it, man.
We're still waiting for that future. It hasn't happened yet.
I know, right?
Speaking of like Fortean themed programming, did anyone watch the new Creep Show on Shudder?
No.
Unfortunately, not yet. You?
They did. Yes, and it wasn't bad. It was enjoyable for what it was, but I believe the last episode they adapted the short story by Joe Hill, by the Silver Light of Lake Champlain, which deals with Champ.
Oh.
And it's really well done. And seeing that, I believe it's only like 40 minutes long. But like seeing that on screen, it's like, this is how it should be handled. It's not like so outrageous that you're like, this is just dumb. It's just believable enough where it keeps you entertained. And you're like, I would like to see this as a feature-length film.
Oh, that's dope.
I'll check it out.
They actually built a practical Champ. Like, it wasn't CGI.
Oh, that's dope.
And you said this is on
Definitely
Shudder?
check it out. It's on Shudder, and I believe it's coming to AMC like next month. They're going to start airing them.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that sounds sick. Champ's one of my favorite cryptids, I think.
Like it still has the campiness, of Creepshow, like the original did. So as long as you appreciate that style and what they're doing, like it's enjoyable from start to finish. I loved that episode. I believe that was one of the highest rated ones.
Mm-hmm. The people are ready for some more cryptid action.
Anything but Bigfoot, though. It's that market's oversaturated for films. I want something. I want the obscure stuff. I want a film entirely about the Fresno Nightcrawlers. I want to see them CGI pants walking around, just looking into people's windows. They sneak into their drawers.
Have them,
and then you pull them out and they spook you.
Have them be these like disgusting, like Giger-esque, like flesh suits that like attach to people and interdimensionally warp their brains out of their bodies.
Whoa.
Just have them look all cute, but then when they get close, they're these horrifying monsters. And it's it's up to the small town of Fresno, led by the ex cop that's disgraced from the big city, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, to fight back.
Oh God!
We're going to get these cons and we're going to rip them to shreds.
Sci-Fi Channel has entered the chat once again.
I'm ready for Sci-Fi to start doing giving the cryptids the Sharknado treatment, where they just start making all these insane cryptid movies with the same 5 people in them.
And Bigfoot's 100 foot tall.
As it's just a cyclone of Bigfoots that have like claws and teeth and rip people to shreds.
I'd watch it.
Just every coast worldwide hammered by Sasquatch tsunamis. Yeah,
it's just like cities laying.
Oh, there it is, Sasquatch tsunami.
It's a
tsunami.
Yeah.
You just see these cities in like ruin, and there's just giant footprints everywhere, stamped.
Just that really stereotypical Bigfoot print, though, that's on all the T-shirts and all the bumper stickers.
There's even like a person that's like squished in half with it. But yeah, hey, Sci-Fi, we're ready. I'm waiting for the check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Is anyone here a fan of H.P. Lovecraft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know you are, Alex.
You just found this out about me.
Yeah. I've known you for how many years?
Yeah, you just found out now my extensive love of Lovecraft.
Yeah, I am personally a writer, and I'm working on some short stories, particularly cryptid stories, but I'm kind of approaching it from a Lovecraftian angle, because I don't think I've really seen that done before too extensively.
So like sort of that cosmic horror? Basically?
That cosmic horror aspect of it, I'm capitalizing on all the weird...
The weird existential horror of it all.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, and especially that Mothman Prophecies book, I mean, that blew my mind. I had no idea, like, just the crazy stuff John Keel was finding out there, and just taking these really strange, almost they don't fit together puzzle pieces and organizing them in a way that's kind of terrifying, I think is really cool.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, honestly, like the thing about Keel is, like he had been doing that stuff for years. And I think a lot of people's first introduction to him is through the Mothman Prophecies. But I mean, you could go back and read
Yeah.
That's the gateway drug that gets everybody in.
All right, I don't know who invited Indrid Cold, but I'm gonna hang up. No, but if you go back and read like Operation Trojan Horse and like The Eighth Tower and like all of these other books that he had written, that really kind of delve into like his personal theories behind a lot of the weirdness that he's talking about in Mothman Prophecies, then I mean that sort of existential horror has been a part of what he was investigating for a very long time. I love that angle though in fiction, and I have never seen that in any kind of like cryptid fiction either. So I do think that's a very interesting sort of tack to take with that, because if you think about it, and I even touched on this in the Lake Michigan Mothman somewhat, that some of this stuff is so weird that if we ever really understood it, I mean, like literally, what would that do to our paradigm? Like, how would we handle that? I mean, we're talking stuff that the implications, are practically like transhumanistic in their implications for humanity. Where it would we're just questioning what even is human. Like, what does that mean?
Is it the next step? Moving up the evolutionary chain.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a fascinating topic. I think that'll be great.
Yeah, and I'm reading The Eighth Tower right now.
Oh, nice.
And
Super
John Keel yeah, it's crazy, and him talking about what is it, gold as a way for these ultra-terrestrials to, materialize in our dimension is very interesting, I think.
It's not all great. I'm not going to lie.
No, yeah.
I mean, he literally argues against evolution at one point. Like, the guy was not right. I'm not kidding. Like, it just is what it is. Like, the guy, we see a lot of like deification of Keel. Like, I've been watching that happen like in real time for years at this point. Because he's been dead for some time now. And so once that happens, you have somebody who has written stuff that is influential enough, and suddenly, you've got people reading it and sharing it, and you see it in media now constantly, where people are just sort of acting like, everything he ever wrote is amazing, and we should just probably take it at face value. And you just can't. I mean, he was a human being. He was wrong about a ton of stuff, but he also had some really, really cool ideas that I think translate into, the sort of phenomena that we're interested in today. I
guess circling back to the Mothman Prophecies, you read that book, and some of the things he talks about, whether it's right or wrong, is just so absolutely bonkers. It's like, why would you ever want to change this, like, for a movie? Why would, there's so much good stuff.
Right? I watched that movie, and I was just like, I don't know what, I don't know what kind of dumpster fire I just saw, but like, it wasn't the Mothman Prophecy. Like, it had nothing to do with anything. Like, it was frustrating.
Yeah.
Which Mothman Prophecies book did you have the cover? Was it the one with the painting of the two people fleeing Mothman?
No, it's this. It's a newer edition. It's Tor who reproduced it. It's kind of like pinkish purple. It's kind of more of an abstract cover.
A little classier.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not as cool as like some of the old ones.
Right. The one Adam's talking about, I think, is a Frank Frazetta painting, which is amazing.
I think so.
Because he did favorite artists of all time.
He did that one that I really like with the man holding the lantern, and it's just that usual suspect lineup of monsters all like standing in front of him. I love that.
Oh
painting.
yeah. Oh, Frank Frazetta. Oh, it's just for all you listeners out there who don't know yet, Frank Frazetta is the man who pretty much epitomized what we think of as big barbarians fighting big monsters, and busty ladies, being in precarious predicaments with monsters as guys have swords and ride pterodactyls and stuff.
Oh, totally. It's sword. Yeah. It's like sword and sorcery at its best. He did every cover to like every
Conan the Barbarian,
Robert E. Howard Conan novel that was reprinted in like the 70s. Yeah, it's just the best.
Yeah, dude.
Just looking at that style, it encapsulates the era in which it was done, and you can just everything is in there, no matter what he was painting about. It's just like that style. It's so hard to reproduce now.
It's this crazy haphazard style where his anatomy is always like off, but it has so much movement that it looks really good. His textures are amazing, and he leaves a lot of the underpainting there. because he works with oil, but he just leaves sometimes parts of the canvas or like, you know, underpainting, and just is like walks away from the painting. He's like, oh, it's done. You're like, oh, it's a masterpiece, and it's incredible, but it's just like half of it's not even done, but it works, so that gives it that style and that kind of like atmosphere to it.
I wish I had that ability to just walk away from something to be like, it's done. I'm good.
And everyone's
with
like,
it.
it's
incredible. Whenever I'm writing something or you know, putting some project together or whatever, I always end it one day and it's like, okay, that's good, it's done. And then I wake up the next day and it's like, I need to add 6 more paragraphs. It's not complete. It's never complete. Like, I just wish I could be like, I'm happy with that. It's good.
I have woken up in the middle of the night, gotten out of bed, and edited like manuscripts or articles so many damn times. Like,
I bet.
it's
Wow.
That feeling has hit me like while I'm at work many times. And, you know, I'm on the clock doing work stuff and it's like, I can't forget this change I have to make when I get home. It's like, oh God, people are going to read it while I'm working and they're going to think I'm a dum-dum.
Yeah. It's too late.
Cat's out of the bag, everyone.
Yeah, wild. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just like it's like they say it's just knowing when to walk away from, you know, if you are like say writing or, you know, because I do drawing and painting, and it's just like sometimes I'm like, you know, I could sit here for 5 hours and I could keep painting on this, but it, you know, I should have stopped like, you know, 3 hours ago. So it's like knowing when to stop and being like, all right, I think this is as good as this piece is going to be. And then learning, you know, what you have from that piece. Being like, all right, well, this time I did this and this. So next time I think I can fine tune a little better and it get easier to walk away from when you think something is finished to kind of make you happy.
Well, the other day I was talking to Rob Morphy.
Oh yeah.
Of the Cryptonaut and fantastic researcher and great artist, all that. And we were talking before the episode started, and he said, and it really, it stuck with me, you know, when I hear people that I really respect, you know, just dropping those little pieces of knowledge. But he just said, you know, when it comes down to it, you got to write for yourself. You write about what makes you happy. Don't write for other people. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's like, okay, you know, you might get that email where someone complains, oh, you didn't write it about this, or you put too much information here, or why didn't you talk about this topic more? And it's kind of like, at the end of the day, those people can just, you know, just go away. Because if you didn't like it, whatever. Don't read the next one that comes out. But I'm putting in there what I want to put in there, and this is how it's going to be at the end.
I'm surprised, like, why do you get such helpful criticism? Like, usually when people email me, it's just like, that's fake. Or I know what that is, and everybody who doesn't agree with me is stupid.
No, remember that one email? That one email I got that I shared with you where that dude was just like going off on me saying that, you know, how I am just an armchair researcher and, you know, the topic, I'm missing information and all this stuff. And then he goes into talking about how he's a professional like investigator, Sasquatch investigator, and he's going on talking himself up. And it's just like the stuff that this guy is telling me, it's just like, what is happening right now? Like, there's no professional Sasquatch investigator. You're not like, that's not a real
face is
job.
all red, and he's just like gripping his safari hat so hard it's crumpled up in his hands. Yeah.
But you could tell this dude was trying so hard to like, I'm going to make this appear like constructive criticism, and he's really going to like this. That I told him all this stuff.
So
and it just comes
basically
across
negging you, but in an email.
He was doing you a favor.
It's like, oh my God.
Oh man, it's crazy. Yeah, some people get jealous. You know, you're like, I don't even have an armchair. I just have a regular desk chair.
Right? I wish I had an armchair.
I just read a review for the podcast not too long ago about they're like, oh yeah, this is just a filler podcast. And I'm like, did we ever claim to be anything else? Like we're not going out there researching, you know? Like, I don't think we've ever claimed to have done that. So I'm just confused.
That happens a lot. That seems to be the one that people always go to when they write negative stuff. It's that this appears to be, or this is just disguised as, or this is, the C grade version of whatever. But it's like, just like what you said, did we ever try to did we come across as saying that it's like we were the best of the best, or, we're the top of the line? Like, where do you get this idea?
Well, I mean, we should probably stop starting all of our podcasts with, "Hey, everyone, we're at the Cryptid Campfire. We are the number one source on every info about cryptozoology. So, we've done the time. We're the experts. So, take everything that we say as a new word of God." And we're going talking about snallygaster today.
They get so mad that you do not touch on a topic that they think needs to be touched on, or talk about a piece of research that they feel is very important. And the minute you don't talk about that, you are on just the D list forever, and they will always try and drag your name through the mud whenever they can.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, we got to stop letting Stefan review our podcast again. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, it's funny when people come, they're like, it's filler podcast. It's like, isn't every form of media filler in some form, because you're just consuming it to the next one?
Right. Like, are there people out there that think that podcasts, I mean, what are people really trying to learn from podcasts? I mean, sometimes I learn something, but usually if I'm going to listen to something, it'll be like Cryptid Campfire, because I want something entertaining and funny if I'm listening to a podcast, because that's the whole point of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
It's learning all your information from podcasts is I had a buddy of mine who once told me that he didn't need to read books because there was nothing. Just hear me out.
No.
This is infuriating. He doesn't need to read books because there's nothing that he can get from a book that he can't learn from television. And I feel that same level of idiocy where somebody would be like, well,
can you hear my eye twitching through the microphone?
I listen to are very informative. That's how I'm so informed. And it's like, well, or you might just be really stupid if you think that, super informative podcasts make you really informed. Just saying.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's like the people who on their Facebook profiles or, the About Me section of Instagram, anything like that, where they always ask that question. It's like favorite books, and they always put, "I don't read." And it's just kind of like, why are you putting that out there? Are you proud of that fact? What's happening?
Listen, books are made from the dead bodies of trees, and trees are where squirrels have filthy sex in, so I will not have any part of this disgustingness in my life. Thank you very much.
It's like perverted necromancy. You're absolutely right.
That comment just stopped me dead in my tracks because I had to think about it. Holy shit, you're right.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that I've infuriated someone at this point, over the past 5 minutes of my dialogue. But it's true, people ask me, okay, or for instance, people ask me what paranormal TV shows that I watch, and I'm like, none of them. I don't watch paranormal TV. I only listen to podcasts that are either funny or that my friends are on. And that's just me, I'm a book guy. Most of my time spent researching and writing my own stuff. And so so much of that stuff that, is basically entertainment, there are a couple kinds of people in this field, you've got people who sort of pursue it as a passion, and that's okay. And you've got people who are more or less fans, and that's okay too. And, the paranormal television and stuff it's for the fans. I mean, there's nothing that I'm likely to get out of that as somebody who's really invested in doing his own work. So I don't watch it. I don't know.
I can say though, just to kind of put it out there, one good thing about getting actual people who take it seriously and stuff to be on these shows, a lot of the time that's the gateway for others to find out who they are, and then they go to their websites and they see the actual research they've done. It's I never would have known this if it wasn't for that show. It's they have to act kind of silly and wear the monkey suit on TV.
It's like Mothman Prophecies, the movie. It's just a train wreck, but for some reason it gets everyone into serious researching.
You can read the book, right? No, I mean, I was on the series premiere of Expedition X. I don't regret it. That was a great experience. And I'm not saying, and this is where I think people get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that like if most of your exposure to this subject matter is through like podcasts or television or something, that there's anything wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Like, not everybody is going to be the kind of person who, interviews witnesses and goes to like do on-site investigation and writes article after article and then obsesses over them to the point where he gets up at midnight to edit something that he thinks he could have done differently or like, maybe got wrong, like that.
I'm starting to think that Tobias is talking about himself.
Very subtle. But no, seriously, like it's just not everybody's going to be that way. And it's not like one is right and one is wrong. It's just, like one is my experience and one is not.
And everyone has that gateway moment that opens the door to them into this field.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, it was like, because there wasn't so many TV shows, you might come across a weird book in the library, or, you might have had that relative who was into this stuff and had the Time Life collection of this weird stuff. And that was your gateway. Now, it could be a YouTube video. It could be a reality show, whatever opens the door to that person, to look into this more, fantastic. But if that door instantly opens and you believe yourself an expert, close that door. Just
slam it,
don't
nail
even
it
walk
shut,
through it.
Walk away.
Also, just to touch on what Tobias said with Expedition Unknown, my shirt was also in the premiere episode. People didn't get to see it because they changed the lighting. But
I wore it on purpose.
I was also in that episode, so I'm going to jump on that.
I mean, you're basically famous because of that. Yeah. I mean, no, I wore it on purpose. I was like, how can I sneak one of my friends onto the show with me? And I was like, well, I got this Pine Barrens Institute shirt. Like, I'll wear it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are they going to do? Send me home? Like, no.
You got to wear that shirt inside out, mister.
You need to leave Chicago.
Right. So, well, yeah, you couldn't even see
we don't want you on the Willis
It's like on
Get off of here.
It's like picture day when you're like, I'm gonna wear my, hookups t-shirt, for picture day, and they're like, you gotta wear your shirt inside out, and you're like, oh damn it. So you put it backwards, so at least the tag's sitting out, so you look like a moron.
Right. No, I mean,
was this another like?
Oh, sorry, dude. Like, I was just gonna say, like, I can't stress enough. Like, it was a really positive experience. Like, I enjoyed doing it. It's just, it just is what it is.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You gotta build that momentum up again. It's like
that was exciting.
I know, right?
I've been playing Crash Team Racing recently, and you gotta drift successfully 3 times to get that turbo boost. So I'm trying to do everything 3 times in succession to get better at it.
Okay, this doesn't deal with cryptids or anything in any way, but did anyone ever watch Adventure Time?
I watched a little bit, yeah.
Do you remember the one where the hot dog princess was lost in the maze and Jake had to find the hot dog knights? And he's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm stretched too thin. And they're like, Jake. And he's like, okay, I'll do anything if you say my name 3 times.
That's so funny.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Oh, Adventure Time, dude. What a crazy show.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I remember, mathematical.
Yeah, that's right.
The catchphrase of 3 years. There was a scourge on the nation. Everything Adventure Time catchphrases.
And my parents are rewatching or going through Breaking Bad for the first time.
Oh man!
And so I've been kind of going in and out, and every once in a while I'll hear like an iconic line and be like, "Oh yeah, everyone used to say that."
Yeah. Science,
yeah, basically.
Yo, Mr. White.
Yeah. Basically anything Jesse says. So.
Okay. So now that first question is done, what's the second one?
Oh yeah.
Now that the intros are done, let's on to the first question, please.
Oh yes. This
50-minute intro. That was fantastic.
We're just getting started, guys. This is for Tobias actually, and this goes back to last week. when Adam was on the show. Tobias, what are your 5 favorite monsters? What are your top 5 monsters?
What? Okay,
and they're not limited by anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be, something that's like purportedly real.
No.
Oh boy.
It's limited from
Movies,
RKO
literature,
features
art.
from 1931 to 1967.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, man, I feel like I should have like really obvious, easy answers for this, but I super don't. So I feel like Mothman has to be in there somewhere, right? Like I owe him that much.
Mothman, yeah.
So sure.
So what you're saying is Mothman is number 1.
Well, and it really has to be like a ranking of 5, where like 5 is the least favorite and 1 is the most favorite.
No,
it's
no,
like just top 5 off the top of your head. Just you're like the list can change at any moment. Like
right. Well, does it have to be something because like monster is and I'm sorry, I can't not be pedantic. So, but like monster is pretty specific. So does it have to be monstrous? Could it be something that isn't necessarily that scary?
It could be anything. Like mine was, I had Jaws and Godzilla and King Kong, stuff like that. I've thought of more since then. I've added the Blob onto there.
The 80s remake one too.
The werewolves from Dog
if it's movie monsters, then that's super easy. I would probably go with like Bela Lugosi Dracula, just because that's the best. Cenobite, because like dude, Cenobites, like the first 2 Hellraisers were amazing.
Chatterface is great.
Oh, for sure. Like I don't know what you would describe like the monsters as in the movie, like In the Mouth of Madness, but I love that movie. Like sort of like
Lovecraftians.
Outside. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Fantastic.
Are they not called
Big
the Elder Ones or something like that? Or
I'm trying to remember what they called them in the actual movie. Like I don't even know that they had a name. It was literally like
they might call them the Old Ones. I want to say.
I
think that's like because they skirt the Lovecraft, but I think they just throw in the old ones for what they are. Okay. Yeah, those guys are great.
Oh, for sure. Let's see. So that's 3, and then let's see. Because my favorite Lovecraft short story is the Whisperer in Darkness, I would go Migo. Nice. Because who doesn't love like the fun guy from Yuggoth, right? And then let's see, to end it off, like I mean, I gotta have a good one here. Like maybe this will like date me, but when I was a kid, especially like growing up, like for whatever reason, I mean, Jason Voorhees was where it was at as far as I like the Friday the 13th movies, like those were the best slasher movies. I mean, okay, yes, Nightmare on Elm Street was a thing. It was cool. Like Dream Warriors was amazing. Everybody loved it. But like for whatever reason, like as an overall series, I just really enjoyed like the Friday 13th aesthetic of like horny teenagers being murdered, for like the sin of partying. And so we'll go with Jason Voorhees.
If you like slasher flicks, sorry to just kind of jump right onto
How dare you? I was
comment. If you like slasher flicks, I have to say you need to check out 2 great movies that are homages to them. The first one being Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie
Good
Vernon.
one. I liked it.
I love that, which talks about how one can become an iconic slasher.
He's like talking you through it the whole time. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like it references Voorhees and Michael and Freddy and stuff as if they were like just real people living, in the house down the street. And then also The Final Girls.
I'll have to check that out.
The Final Girls is a great throwback to 80s slasher flicks, but it also involves it's really self-aware. It involves like I don't want to say time travel, but like
time travel. I mean, I guess not to bury the lead. the main character, her mom was a scream queen, a scream queen, and so she goes to see one of her old movies and gets teleported into the movie, which is a slasher.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the
Nice.
setup,
Yes.
and then just kind of what
Right.
unfurls when you kind of have this kind of mother-daughter connection in a slasher film in the 80s.
The title, I mean, kind of says it all, right? Because there always is like that one final girl who's left at the end, you know?
Mhm.
So sure.
Yep. And finally, the last one I can think of that just came to mind:
Oh, yes.
Tucker and Dale
That is
versus
a good
Evil.
one. Yeah, that was another one that's very self-aware, you know.
I was going to say real quick, I guess to piggyback off of the five monsters, is just, do you have a favorite version of Jason Voorhees? Because he's kind of got, some different looks.
Right. See, because I guess of how old I was at the time. So there was sort of that transition after like the first two Friday the 13th, where they started becoming sort of progressively more supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I was really coming of age kind of at like peak supernaturalness. Yeah. So like anything from like 3 through Jason X
Mhm.
was, like those were my jam, really.
He's kind of like that voodoo kind of reanimated corpse, almost Frankenstein monster.
You couldn't kill him, because it never really made sense otherwise. Like, you would see slasher movies with like these sort of like purportedly mortal or just like really super angry slashers who would get shot by the police 100 times but be okay, because reasons. And now, like they added, like that supernatural like regeneration or whatever to Jason so he could keep coming back, because it was literally the only way it ever made any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I personally think the best style of Jason, and you might fight
man.
me on this because of your
Is it
love
burlap
of
sack
the
mask,
original.
Jason?
I think the best. No, I think the best style for him, he's looked the best, was in the 2009
I like that movie.
remake.
I
thought that was the perfect. A lot of people despise that movie.
Really?
Oh, they hate it
just
a lot.
I mean, it's
He
pretty
looked
typical.
the best
It's just
in that
people
one.
like partying at a cabin getting murdered. I don't know.
But he's like Predator Jason. he's like 7 feet tall. He can climb through the trees. He can dissipate. He has traps set up.
Yeah, well, he always had like
That was the
traps
best
and
one.
ambushes and stuff. Like, that's nothing new. But yeah,
I need to watch this.
Yeah,
I thought I didn't have a problem with it.
I like the Jason from Jason Goes to Hell for the first 5 minutes when he's like the mask is too small in his head and it's like all swollen,
Right.
and he's just like this. He looks like Akira, kind of just like this disgusting blobby mess.
It's like a dog that ate a bee.
Tobias, I wanted to go back to something you had said about your top 5 monsters. You had mentioned Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to ask, and I guess I'll preface this. No, I want to see what your opinion is. What do you think of Francis Ford Coppola's version of Dracula?
Was that the one with Gary Oldman?
Mm-hmm.
Gary Oldman as Dracula, yeah.
Actually, I liked it okay. Like, it was fine. I think it was because I think I had to read that book in high school even, and I think that version of it was more accurate, to that novel. And it captured because I guess the reason that I like Bela Lugosi's Dracula is not because it's like an objectively superior Dracula to all other Draculas, is because like no single character to me encapsulates all of like the fun horror of the 1930s Universal monsters much as Bela Lugosi as Dracula. And so yeah, like that newer one, was it a superior Dracula movie? Yeah, sure, probably. Did I have as much fun watching it the first time as I did the first time I watched, Bela Lugosi as Dracula in the old like Universal picture? No, I honestly didn't. So yeah, I don't know. It just kind of is what it is, I guess.
No, yeah. That's totally. The reason I bring this up is because that version, Gary Oldman's Dracula, probably one of my favorite
Mhm.
movies of all time. Me and Alex have gone on for probably hours on end just talking about that movie.
Oh
just
yeah. It,
I just don't know what it is about that movie, but it's just so cool.
we have a lot of discussions about that movie, and I'll plant my flag on the mountain that I will die on. I will preface to say that Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula is the greatest movie ever made.
It's just the greatest single movie of all time, huh?
And I mean that in every sense of the word of what a movie is, in terms of story, technique, and just the use of filmmaking in that movie. I think takes everything that was from the beginning of movie when they were like, oh, we can make cameras now. We can, you have like those like little transitions. You look at the old timey black and white weird stuff, and they were doing matte paintings and this and that. And this movie just takes all of those and takes every aspect, every trick in the book from like vaudeville, plays, old timey movies, and makes this the end all be all of what you can push these mediums to be. And I think it adds a lot to the Dracula story that I think that elevates a lot of what the novel, I guess you could say.
Well, that's hard to follow.
Jaws is the greatest movie.
Jaws
is pretty good too.
Jaws is amazing. That's probably my dad's favorite movie right there.
Really?
Oh yeah, he loves that movie.
I
remember.
I watched that movie.
I'm so sorry, but I remember one year he bought that movie for me for Christmas. Bought it for me, and as soon as I opened it, it was in his hands and in the Blu-ray player.
That's a good Christmas tradition to watch Jaws. Right. Dude, that's awesome. But yeah, Jaws. Ooh, Steven Spielberg.
Our family. Speaking of Christmas tradition and touching on the topic of monsters, our new family tradition that's been happening for the last 3 years or so, maybe 4, is watching Krampus.
Oh yeah.
Michael Daughtry's Krampus
with Adam Scott in it.
Fantastic movie. I love that movie.
Does it really have Adam Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so strange. I've seen that man
in real life
me and Alex,
more times than in movies.
In movies, yes. Me and Alex used to work at a movie theater together, and Adam Scott would come in all the time. And I remember the first time I ever saw him in person, he was passed out in the front row of watching some movie that no one came to see. That's just what I think of every time I see him on TV now.
Can you invite him into the chat?
I don't know him personally like that.
Oh man!
Excuse me, sir. Sir, you have to wake up. And also, do you want to be on my podcast?
Right. Hey, Adam Scott, it's me, that guy that woke you up in a movie theater.
Sorry, you're allowed to stay 20 minutes past the scheduled end time of the movie. It's been 25 minutes. We do have to ask you to leave. We do thank you for your patronage. If you would like to buy another ticket to see another movie, we'd love to associate. But at the time, we have to ask you to leave.
You spit that out really fast.
That sounded rehearsed.
That was just freeform too.
Nice. Now I feel I don't even have a favorite movie. Like, I mean, is that normal? Do most people have a favorite movie? Like, should I?
I mean, I have a revolving list of favorite movies.
Same.
Usually T2 Judgment Day is at the very top.
T2.
That's a good. Hey, I saw that in the theater when I was a little kid.
Ooh.
I was probably in like 6th grade. And yes,
a couple years
away.
That movie's awesome. But a couple years ago, they re-released it in 3D. I don't know. Did you get to see that?
No. Man, I don't know. I missed that. When I was a kid, I was so terrified of nuclear annihilation, especially after seeing that movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy too to think, because that was just like, I don't know, the threat of nuclear annihilation was over everyone's head for up until like what, the mid 90s.
And well, now it's back.
Well, yeah, it's back and it's here to stay, baby.
Yeah, right. When I was a little kid in like the 1980s, I mean, it was a very real threat. I mean, like people like it existed in the popular consciousness, the idea that we would go to nuclear war with the Russians or the Soviet Union, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be the end of the world, and that would just be it,
I mean, that's a plot point in The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Because I mean, Stalin was still alive, right, in that one?
Yeah. And but yeah, just the fact that Batman just had to take on the crimes of Gotham, but also the horrors of the Soviet Union at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean it was in the cultural zeitgeist for sure. Like to the point where like you'd even have like little like things you have to go over in school. Like, okay, if in case of like nuclear attack or something, we'll just basically do the same thing as a tornado drill, which I don't know what kind of that was supposed to do.
Yeah,
but
I know that that shot of Sarah Connor where she's at the playground and the nuke hits like Los Angeles or whatever it is, and she's just holding on to the fence as like her flesh is blown off. It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, and there's like the kids on the playground. They just they fly away like burned paper. They fly away.
Right? Like I was not old enough to go see that in the in the theater. My friend and I like got his dad to go up and just tell them it was okay for us to go see it because he didn't care. He was like, you'll be fine. Just just be men.
The new Arnold movie. Yeah, let's go see it.
Yeah, right. And like meanwhile, I'm like 10, and yeah, it just scared the crap out of me.
I believe not too long ago I read they said that was the most accurate depiction on film of what a nuclear blast is like.
They got all because they made this entire like scale city and they have it blow away and just there's the really good like behind the scenes. It might be on YouTube. I know it's on like the DVDs of just them like figuring out how to be like, well, how do you make like a blast? Like, what do you do this, and this? And it's insane. It's this nightmare vision. But then it's just a good movie too. And Robert Patrick, who also shows up in X-Files, shows up in that movie.
Oh yeah, he does.
Robert Patrick, yes, very underrated actor.
Oh, he's so good.
He's also the lead in Fire in the Sky.
Yeah,
that's right.
And he's one of the henchmen who gets killed by John McClane in Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Oh no, Die Hard 2, Die Harder.
I like Die Hard 2, but yeah.
Die Hard 2 is awesome.
It was like the first two I think were solid. And like it's not like I didn't watch the rest of the Die Hard franchise. But like the first two I feel like can stand on their own and just are legitimately good movies.
As an open and shut story, they go well together. And then it gets kind of split and gets kind of crazy. But yeah, Die Hard 2, just the audacity, just to call that movie Die Harder. Like that's just like the name alone is just it's just like it's the pinnacle of like the English language of what you could do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like the first one, but more. I don't know what you want. I mean, come on. Grammatical wise, it makes sense, and the form is correct, but it doesn't. It's somehow the English language is the only thing that can master such a sentence in the world. That's what we should have sent out to the aliens on the shuttle. It might be the single most American usage of the English language ever in history.
Could you imagine an alien species just receiving Die Harder? Just...
That's the only word they receive.
You get the aliens, they see the gold plates with like the naked man, the naked woman. There's like the copies of like the Declaration of Independence and pictures of the 8 wonders of the world and just a piece of paper and their tentacles open it up and it just says Die Hard 2, Die Harder, and then in commas and in captions 1990. And they say surely these human seeming creatures are beyond even our capacities. But yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah.
I think it's like this is around the same year that Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula came out.
Oh my lord, Alex, you're just
It's a real banner year for movies. Then, nice.
I mean, is this a good way to end the conversation? Die Hard.
I feel like I've hit my peak. Yeah.
I mean, unless you guys have anything you want to ask us, anything you want to bring to the table, we've had a smorgasbord of meaty discussion.
Why did you start the campfire?
Why did we start the campfire? Very good question. It begun with me and Alex, actually, at the movie theater that I mentioned before. And I forget exactly how. There was a position called alcohol compliance monitor. And our job was basically to make sure whoever was drinking at the theater wasn't giving it to, minors or people who weren't supposed to drink or whatnot. But most of the job was just two people standing next to each other with nothing to do. And so it was me and Alex and we ended up talking about weird stuff. And we were like, hey, we should start a podcast. And I remember,
I was gonna say it got to the point to where, we'd work with we'd be Usher walking around, it'd be you, me, and like some other person. We're just going back and forth about past lives, or what about aliens, or what about psychic abilities, and it's just like we had an audience of one person who was kind of stuck with us because we had to schedule to clean the houses. And
I remember the first time I told Alex about the idea. I was like, hey, Alex, I think it would be cool to start a podcast. He just kind of and walked away. And I remember thinking, I was like, I guess that's that. And he came back to me a couple days later and was like, I think that would be cool if we started a podcast.
I made my declaratory statement, walked away, and started planning the next battle.
And we had our conversations were so deep within each other, layered with inside jokes and things, that we decided it would be a good idea to bring a third person on board, so it wasn't just two nerds talking the entire time.
To kind of keep it level when we'd go off on tangents of David Lynch or
Yeah, and so that's how Jasmine got involved, and we brought Stefan on later, and that's kind of how we just started the campfire. And it's definitely grown over the past almost 2 years since we started it into what we're doing now. I mean, if you would have told me 2 years ago I would be on the phone with you two people, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't have believed it, but mostly because who would have wanted to talk to me 2 years ago?
I was talking to you 2 years ago.
I know. So if that's if that's representative, then yikes.
Nah. It's so underground.
Right. No, that's really cool, man. And I think that the format for the podcast works, because you're absolutely right. I talk to you guys and I feel like, the four of us here, we could probably talk about a bunch of obscure nerdy stuff until we're blue in the face, and everybody listening who kind of isn't on that level has been doing something else for 35 minutes at this point. Yeah. But having people to control that is it's a good thing. But I don't know, man. I think it's great. And I don't know. I hope the campfire keeps growing, honestly.
Thank you.
Because we really need more stuff like this. Too many people take themselves far too seriously in this industry.
this is the best way to like get information out there too. If you feel like by listening to people having fun while also talking about, obscure topics which spread information, you absorb it better because you feel like you're part of the group. When you listen to someone who feels that they are the smartest thing to ever walk the earth, they talk with that tone that's just really off-putting, and you're like, I don't want to spend 2 hours listening to this guy talk about how great they are.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not fun.
It's
completely.
I think the way we always I guess, like, I don't know if we were we talked about it, or just the way we do it is just it's okay to have fun. It's okay to be interested in the paranormal and cryptozoology, and still have fun. You look at you're talking about people out there like so full of themselves, but you go like, I'm interested about Bigfoot. I'd like to listen to it. Hi everyone, welcome to the part 15 of a 25-part series. Today we'll be talking about 1967. 2 Caucasian males, 6'7" and also 6'5", went into the woods at 8 p.m. a.m. And then what they found that day was forever. And you're like, oh, what is happening? I don't know. It's dates and facts and people, and everyone's just so monotone, and I'm falling asleep.
I completely understand. I've said it before, and I'll always say it. This is a field that should be taken seriously by a lot of people, but the people in this field should not take themselves too seriously. It's
Absolutely.
If you can't have fun with it, then just don't even do it. Because like you guys do, you have fun here on Twitter and Instagram and everything. You can tell that you enjoy this. Tobias and I, we do the same thing. We're posting, the stuff that we do out there, but then we're also having fun online, meeting people and talking. And that's the best way to do it. But then you get these people every now and again who are literally just the fun police, and everything has to be serious. And, Bigfoot is a serious topic. And if you don't give him the respect he deserves, then, you're no longer welcome in this circle and you can't talk to these people. It's just like, come on.
The dreaded gatekeepers.
Yeah,
it is. This field has so many gatekeepers.
Well, and they're the same idiots who think they even know what Bigfoot is for some reason, as though we have that level of knowledge. So,
yeah, you dummies, get on the same level. We all figured it out.
I think...
I guess I'm the idiot. I'm the only one who doesn't know what Bigfoot really is.
I missed the one memo, and just, boy, are my pants down.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of egg on my face over here.
See, I was going through Facebook the other day, and it was one of the groups I'm in, someone posted a thing saying, tune in at this time and I'll be discussing the dietary habits of Sasquatch, and I'll be talking about, the migration patterns of Sasquatch and stuff like that. And it's like, join me for a new episode.
Nonsense University.
Exactly. It's just like, wait, are people seeing this? And they're like, yes, another expert in the field. I cannot wait to follow them and give them my Patreon money. It's like they're just making shit up.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, admit that you don't know, but you're basing it on your guesses, and always tell it,
Yeah.
These are my theories. These are my guesses. Like when sometimes if people ask me, do you believe in Bigfoot? A lot of the times I'll just straight up say no, because I know they're asking about the reality show depiction of what Bigfoot is.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that Bigfoot. What I believe in, or I feel could exist in some way, but I'm not settled on it, are, the classic depictions of, the wild man in the forest. They didn't know what it was. It was just some tall, hairy thing that was hanging out in the woods. They're not, oh, we should probably come back here and give it some, make it some s'mores because these wild men here, they love s'mores. And I know that for a fact. It's like, no.
Everybody loves s'mores.
You can admit that something could exist in the woods like that, but don't say 100% what it is, because you just look foolish in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy, let us categorize the dietary, usages of these wild men and the syntax with which to refer to them, and figure out their entire, hierarchy.
We definitely have all
just
seen,
something out there. Don't go in the woods.
We've definitely all seen videos and TV shows of people leaving baskets of peanut butter and Snickers bars in the woods because Bigfoot loved them, and nothing else in the woods will eat free food that you just leave lying around in a freaking basket. It's always Bigfoot.
What's interesting is someone did. I don't know if have you guys heard of the Nutella cast?
No.
Oh, this is interesting. Cliff Barrickman has the actual cast in his museum in Oregon, but someone did an experiment where they put a jar of Nutella that was still closed in a large contraption. It's like this giant PVC pipe with sandpaper lined on the inside in a tree about 10 feet up in the air, or 10 feet up in this tree, not in the air. It wasn't just floating, but they left it there, I think, for like a couple of weeks. And when they came back, they had found the PVC pipe was on the ground and the Nutella jar was unscrewed, and there was like large fingerprints imprinted in the Nutella where something had scooped it out. And they think those are Sasquatch fingers in there.
Was the trap at all, how was it like documented during the weeks out there? Was it just kind of left alone to its own devices? Whatever happened?
I think it was just left alone. I mean, it's been a long time since I've read about this, but I know they took photos before and after. I'm not sure if they set up any. I don't think they set up any game cameras. Otherwise, they would have showed what they had.
That would have been too convenient.
Right.
See, now
but I know it's an undisclosed location that they did it at, and it was somewhere in Kentucky. So, but yeah, I mean,
it's tough because I mean that literally doesn't prove anything.
Right.
You know, like I will feel like, what is the point of performing an experiment like that unless you're really just trying to prove it to yourself, I guess. Because it's not, nobody's going to look at that and be like, oh, that, I mean, no reasonable person should look at that and say that's indisputable, you know, proof, because literally anybody could have taken that down, unscrewed the cap, and, you know, scooped some like Nutella out.
Right.
Yeah, like literally any.
You also have to take into account, you know, tree breaks and falling limbs that could knock something out of the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Just the determination of wildlife itself wanting to get into something, you know, if it fell out of the tree and it cracked, the passing wildlife around trying to get into it, they'll keep working at something. I mean, have you ever like watched a squirrel trying to get onto that bird feeder and it finally figures out how to do it? It's
right.
So there's a lot. These are the kind of things that like Tobias will send me in a message, or I'll send him in a message, and then it starts that dialogue where it's like, okay, I got to be the fun killer, or what about this crazy idea? You know,
you are a huge buzz. That's accurate.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, okay, you first got to look at all of the surrounding events that could happen, and once you finally determine that none of them were it, then you go to the quote unquote crazier ones of, okay, maybe a monster did this, or maybe a Bigfoot did this or something. But it's like situations like this, a lot of people, the stone cold believers, instantly jump right to this has to be Bigfoot. And,
you know,
it could have been Bigfoot, who knows? But it could have been, you know, a porcupine too, because
raccoons can take lids off of things.
No, but I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm not going to argue with you guys or anything, because I don't know, you raised some very
interesting
points. But I will say, because I went to Cliff's museum in person and I saw that Nutella cast, those fingers are ginormous. They're like huge. And but yeah,
could
that's
those
about
fingers, do you think that those fingers could actually be like the snout of a weasel or a porcupine or a raccoon pushing its face into the jar, and what appears to be fingers are actually the nose imprint?
It could be
licking the Nutella out.
I think he showed me something when I was there. He said it looked like a fingernail, but I couldn't make it out. I don't know. I'll link you guys to it if you guys want. And
yeah, you definitely should.
Yeah, I mean,
because I want to check it out, and I definitely don't want to be that guy who's just like, Oh, you just told me this thing that I didn't even know about 45 seconds ago. Let me tear it apart.
And I'm not claiming to be an expert, or I'm not claiming to be that it's Sasquatch either. You know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, sure. No, I'm just saying, like, I feel like I attacked it right away, and yeah, that was not my intention.
No.
I mean, I think it sounds super interesting. So,
no worries.
It raises questions because it makes you wonder. Does this mean that our boy Bigfoot doesn't like Nutella? Because if he would, he would have taken that can with him and would have licked that whole container clean. So I'm worried. Like this, you know, nobody had Nutella and turned it down in my experience.
All of the information I know about Bigfoot, I got from the most reputable source anyone ever could, and that is Harry and the Hendersons. And from that, I have learned that Bigfoot does not like cheeseburgers at all. The thing it craves the most is goldfish and filet of fish sandwiches from McDonald's. So unless wrappers were found at the scene, this was not Bigfoot. And we should just move on because it's a close case.
There's only one known weakness to Bigfoot, and that's John Lithgow.
Honestly, John Lithgow is everyone's
one slap keeps the beast away out of fear.
John Lithgow can be terrifying. Did anybody else see, I think it was the Amazing Stories movie, like way back in the day, where like he's this angry teacher, and so these kids try to cast this spell on him to curse him. They accidentally tear the photograph and his head comes off, and then he like sews it back on. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's nightmare fuel if you're like 8.
John Lithgow is awesome. He have you seen Buckaroo Banzai?
Oh yeah.
He plays an Italian scientist possessed by creatures from the 9th dimension.
What? That's insane.
He played the Trinity Killer in Dexter too.
That's in that Peter Weller.
Yes, Peter Weller is Buckaroo Banzai. Clancy Brown's in there as his right-hand man. Jeff Goldblum shows up as a neurosurgeon cowboy.
What?
What wasn't? Like, what movie, like, weird movie was Jeff Goldblum not in? I mean, he's been in like every really weird movie I think I've ever seen.
He's in The Fly. He's in Buckaroo Banzai. He's in Hotel Transylvania.
Is he really?
6-800.
Oh, God, yes, I forgot about that. That movie is so bad.
Gina Davis is in that one, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man, that movie sucked.
He's in the first Secret Life of Cats and Dogs, the one from early 2000s.
Oh, he was in another one with Gina Davis, too. It was a musical, and he was like Martian.
Oh, Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yes.
With Jim Carrey.
That's a classic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That movie's awesome. That movie's insane.
How strong.
All right, so sorry for everybody who hasn't seen like Jeff Goldblum's huge album of weird movies, but I think that's a pretty good primer.
That's the first part of our TED Talk. We want to thank you all for coming today.
Yeah, right.
But how do we get to Jeff Goldblum?
I don't know.
I feel like I was apologizing for being way too judgmental about the Bigfoot Nutella, and then it just kind of segued into Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, John Lithgow. There was talking about talking about living in the universe where we didn't get such great hits as David Lynch directing Mothman Prophecies with David Duchovny. Originally they were it came out like I think recently in the article that he was considered to play the Joker in the Tim Burton Batman back in the 80s.
Whoa.
Really?
And like John Lithgow as the Joker would have been so good.
Come on, Jack Nicholson is like the best Joker.
Jack Nicholson is the Joker. Like he was the best. That's the best Joker. Is your like middle-aged 80s, Jack Nicholson, hot off the successes of the two Jakes.
Nothing. Okay, as a fan of like the Batman series, especially at that time, like, I mean, especially cinematically, like nobody's actually captured like the actual, crazed evil clown Joker like Jack Nicholson.
I think Jared Leto put a big turn of clown in his impression.
I feel like Jared Leto hates me personally, like me specifically, based entirely on his performance as the Joker. Like he just did that to make me because he hates me.
It's like, you ever see the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin?
Yes.
There's the guy who's he's got a gun. He's like I'm just gonna kill anybody today, and he puts his finger on in the phone book, and his name lands on Steve Martin. He's like, your day is today, you son of a bitch. And it's just random. It was just Jared Leto's like, you know what? Today's the day. My Joker is gonna be the worst for you, sir.
Yes, I'm gonna find a huge Batman fan, and I'm just gonna ruin this movie. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great movie anyway, but still, his Joker sucked.
Yeah, it did.
But yeah, John Lithgow as a Joker would have been good.
I would have watched that, sure,
because he would be pretty scary, actually.
Hey, he's still around, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, get him to play old Joker when they do a live action Dark Knight Returns.
Ooh.
Going down the rabbit hole for a minute. Does anybody know the crazy out there theory of the Beatles tape from the future? The dude went to the parallel dimension and he brought back the Beatles tape.
Yes, absolutely.
That means there is a Joker that is played by John Lithgow out there. You just have to find the portal to go into to get that VHS copy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Be right back. You're doing all the multiverse
If
worlds.
I remember correctly, that guy was walking his dog when he stumbled into an alternate dimension. So I think I will go walk my dog right now.
And just keep walking until you get that tape.
Well, there's also that one where the dude was like fixing his sink and he crawled into a portal under his sink where he hung out with his old self like 30 years in the future, and they took a picture together.
Yeah.
That's another fun one.
It's crazy to think like what just there's so many universes you could fall into, because you fall in the one to where you're like, oh wow, they actually casted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play RoboCop. This is insane. And he's just the size of like 2 refrigerators going through the set, because he's this giant monster of. It's like, I have the proof, so you bring it over, and then you land in the universe, and they're like, oh crap, Hitler never died, and he somehow cloned dinosaurs. Oh crap. And you're just like, when will it end? And then you go back in time, and then you're like, oh no, it wasn't, an amphibian that walked on the land. It was a crustacean. So it's just this world of giant crab people and crab towns with crab cars. And instead of cats, they have shrimp. The movie, and you're like, it's a nightmare.
What?
Did I just go into an alternate reality right now? Because this is freaking blowing my mind.
Right. Honestly, you know what it sounds like? Oh God, who wrote that? Was it Ray Bradbury who wrote? God, it was a time travel story. It basically
the butterfly effect. Which is the.
It's not the butterfly effect, but it's something similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like the Simpsons did it to where Homer goes back in time and he sits on a butterfly and it changes the future.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's what that reminded me of. Yeah, super good. And I can't even think of the name of it. So that is some good podcasting on my part.
That's good podcasting.
Well, you know what would be great is, you're talking about going all the way back is, you're doing cryptid fiction. You're like, oh, we should kind of bring a Lovecraftian, kind of style to this genre that hasn't really been explored yet. They should do a remake of Quantum Leap, but with Lovecraftian nightmares, to where every week he lands in a universe that's just this nightmare-inducing hellhole.
Wouldn't he just be like a gibbering madman by like the end of the first one, and that would just be it?
The character's played by Nick Cage, so that's
Yeah, it's just
standard.
He started with that.
Nick Cage's entire filmography is just this giant masterpiece of 50 films. Each movie is him in a different universe. And it's starting to take its toll.
Oh my lord.
But yeah.
Wow.
Did we want to start wrapping this one up?
We can try.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I don't know about you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a blast.
It really was. So I guess I'll start with Tobias. How do I find you on the interwebs?
Oh boy, you are spoiled for choice. So if you want to check out the Singular Fortean Society, I would recommend going directly to our website at singularfortean.com. Otherwise, you can find us on all of the social medias that a 40-year-old man would know about. So Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And if you are interested enough in what we do that you want to be a part of it, then check us out at patreon.com/singularfortean.
Mm-hmm. And Adam, how do I find you?
You can find all of my stuff at pinebaronsinstitute.com, or you can crawl under your sink through the portal under there, and you will come out in my house, and I'll just tell you everything you want to know.
You get a picture with Neanderthal village elder Adam Benedict.
It's the storyline of It Came From the Basement by R.L. Stine and Goosebumps.
Oh God.
And Alex, how do I find you?
If you want to find me on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex DAIKAIJU. Keep an eye on my Instagram. I've been posting various pictures. I do monster-related art, some cryptid-related art. Sometimes a crossover of the two, if you could imagine it.
Ooh.
And if you wanted to find the Eli Watson, what would I do?
Yes, you can find me at the Eli Watson on Instagram. And I do a little bit of photography if you're interested in that. And if you're interested in hearing more of this podcast and seeing what else we post, you can follow us at Cryptid Campfire on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Wait, what do I do next? Oh, yes, I do the website. That's so cool.
And if you wanted to get more?
Yes, you can visit cryptidcampfire.com, where you can get your official Cryptid Campfire t-shirt.
Except no substitutes.
And if you like us enough and you wish to gain access to exclusive episodes along with early access to episodes, visit our Patreon and become a creepy camper.
Oh yeah, if you survived this TED Talk of insanity, if you liked who we are, if you liked what we said, if you want to see the very inner workings of our minds themselves, give us the money, please.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah, we want to thank you for surviving this deep dive into, this is, what everything would be like if we didn't have somebody to regulate.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and I thank you, Tobias and Adam, for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Seriously, guys.
Yeah, I definitely forgot what I was going to say. Yes.
I think we all echo that sentiment.
Well, thank you, everyone, and you have a good night.
Oh, can we say the outro? This has been Cryptid Campfire.
We can try, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Alex, lead us.
So this has been Alex Daikaiju.
This has been Eli Watson.
This has been Tobias Wayland.
This has been Adam Benedict.
And you've been listening to Cryptid Campfire.
It's no good.
That was the best one.
I'm not. I feel bad about it.
Folks, if you want to hear us get it right, please donate to the Patreons for everybody, and we will have the time to get it right.
We need voice lessons.
Right.
Well, thank you everyone, and have a good night.
Bye.